Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Colganology, which, to be fair, is a lot like all the other episodes of Colganology, but thanks for sticking with it. So today is Lughnasadh, which in the wheel of the year in the pagan calendar is the date that we start thinking about the harvest, the wheat harvest, or at least the grain harvest I should say. And in the past, of course, this would be quite a big thing. So if the grain harvest failed, then you wouldn't get through the winter. So it was a reason to implore the gods to be kind and to thank the gods when it did go well. We've had quite a slow summer, and that's holding off the harvest, I think, because this time last year they'd normally been out with the harvesters. But nevertheless, yeah, it's all about the grain. It's the reason why your kids get 6 weeks off in the summer holidays, if you didn't know, from school, because back in the day the families couldn't spare their kids for, for the luxury of education when there was so much to do at harvest time, which is why this time of year kids used to get 6 weeks off, and still do to this day, even though sometimes most people don't realise why. Lughnasadh was also known as Lammas, which comes from the Old English chlafmas, and chlaf, H-L-A-F, basically means bread, and it's also the word from which we get our modern word loaf. So it was a loaf mass, and it was using bread to celebrate a good harvest. Down in my native Cornwall, they celebrate by cutting the fields, and then the very last sheaf of wheat is kept, and they call it crying the neck, and someone stands there in the field and shouts, I have it, I have it, I have it. And people say, what have he, what have he, what have he? And it's the neck, the neck, the neck. In fact, I'll show you a little clip of people doing crying the neck ceremony, but doing it in the Cornish language. Hang on.
Ma gannet! Ma gannet! Ma gannet!
Hundreds Guinness! Hundreds Guinness! Hundreds Guinness!
Penyor! 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 Hooray! 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 I haven't! I haven't! I haven't!
What have he? What have he? What have he?
The neck! The neck! The neck!
Hooray! Hooray! Hooray!
What they do in some other parts of the country is they take the last sheaf of... Will you be quiet? What they do in some other parts of the country is they take the very last sheaf of the wheat or the corn or the barley or whatever it happens to be, and they weave it into a corn dolly, or they keep it as a sheaf, and they keep it indoors throughout the winter to keep the spirit of the grain alive. And then what happens is, come the spring, it's ploughed back into the field to put the spirit back into the field. It's a lovely idea. And all right, it may not have any scientific basis to it, but it's a lovely idea. The idea that you are helping to preserve the spirit of the grain for the next year. There is a lovely old folk song I'm sure you're aware of called John Barleycorn, which tells the story, the sort of life history of the grain, the wheat, the barley, whatever it happens to be, and how at the end it's basically grown again. It rises again the following year, but in the meantime has made bread, and more importantly, of course, beer.
There was two brothers stood on yon hill, as it might be you and I. And betwixt those two brothers there rose a dispute that John Barleycorn should die.
No idea either. Old rusty bit of agricultural chain just hanging from a tree. It's not been here before, so someone's just found it somewhere. Look at these hazelnuts, completely cleaned out inside. They must have tongues like sandpaper, squirrels. Look how they've got in there. Blimey, still green nut, but they're completely empty inside their shells. This is why I never get any hazelnuts. You'll see that a lot of these younger trees have got sleeves on them. It's not to keep them warm at night, it's to protect them, because we do have at night in these fields, we get roe deer and muntjac coming in here, and they are buggers for nibbling young bark. In fact, this one, the sleeves come off, And you can see the graze marks here, look. You can see where the deer have been nibbling against the bark. And yeah, it's not very good for the tree. But oh look, some tiny little mushrooms. We love tiny little mushrooms. Loads of them starting to turn up now. Quite early, as I said in the previous video. Quite early, but with only when we've had a period of extended damp and warmth. And let's face it, there's nothing that fungus likes more than warmth and damp. Some more of those teeny, tiny mushrooms. I mean, they are really tiny. Let's get my finger in here for perspective. Here we are, look. That's how small they are. Aren't they lovely, delicate little things? Look at them. Red kite in the tree there. Sitting, watching the world go by. Not bothered by much. Big bird. It's a big bird. And just below where you were sitting, a red kite feather. I shall put that one in my hat. Witchy people like to talk about a kind of trinity of trees in terms of, you know, magic, and it's usually oak, ash and thorn. And this little meadow here is great because it's got all three, because there's an oak, and there's several ashes behind it, and there's a hawthorn. And if you say, oh, it's not hawthorn, it should be blackthorn, there's blackthorn just behind it there, behind those two ash trees over there. So we've actually got the whole set here. I should probably get a little twig from each and bind them together. Keep the witches away. Well, you know, the bad witches. The good ones are a bit of fun. I know, I hang out with a few. Is that it for today? Is that it for today? Yeah, we think that's it for today. See you next time. Doodle pip.